Qantas has brought forward to November 1st its plan to resume QF1 from Sydney to London. This resumption is helped by New South Wales reopening its international borders to those fully vaccinated on that day. The flight will operate via Darwin, the capital of the Northern Territory, temporarily replacing Perth. The cost of operating a Sydney-Darwin-Heathrow round trip? About 604,000 Australian dollars, according to data experts at RDC Aviation. But at least the cost is lower than the airline transiting via Singapore. Let's take a closer look at all the factors involved in operating this service. Before we go any further, a crazy 79% of you have not yet subscribed. Please, do us a favour and subscribe now. It really means a lot. Australia's flag carrier had expected to reintroduce its kangaroo route from Sydney to London Heathrow in December, but this was moved forward to mid-November and recommenced as of November the 1st. This service will be joined by Melbourne to Heathrow from December 18th, just in time for Christmas. New South Wales will reopen to fully vaccinated travellers on November 1st, none of whom will have to quarantine on arrival. In reality, the border will only really be open to Australian citizens, permanent residents and immediate families, but at least it's a start. The state of Victoria hasn't yet confirmed when it'll reopen, but expected to be shortly. The relaunch of Melbourne-London will be pushed forward or back based on this. Darwin Airport has played an essential role in repatriating Australian stock overseas, including from London and Buenos Aires. This is mainly because of its quarantine facilities. However, until now, Darwin hasn't had a prolonged non-stop operation to London Heathrow. This will change in November and December when Sydney and Melbourne both route via Darwin to the UK capital. The schedule is shown here, with all times listed being local. Sydney will initially be 4 weekly, but will rise to 7 weekly, while Melbourne will be 7 weekly from the start. Both the routes from Sydney and Melbourne will utilise 236-seat 787-9s, which have 42 seats in business, 28 in premium economy and 166 in economy. Qantas now has 11 787s in its fleet. Significantly, Darwin-Heathrow-Darwin is bookable in its own right, but only on QF9 or QF10. This theoretically means it's more than simply a fuel stop. In reality, it is merely a 90-minute fuel stop. This is because the Northern Territory will remain closed to international travellers until sometime in 2022. Booking data shows that in 2019, only about 10,000 round-trip point-to-point passengers flew between Darwin and London, a minuscule amount for an ultra-long-haul market. In comparison, Perth to London had over 250,000, but it isn't about Darwin's numbers. Although dates may change, from March 27th, the first day of the Northern Hemisphere's aviation summer season, winter season in the Southern Hemisphere, it's expected that all of Qantas's Melbourne-London flights will once more operate via Perth. At the same time, Sydney will again route via Singapore. According to RDC Aviation's Apex Route Performance Module, one Qantas round trip between Sydney and London via Darwin will have an operating cost of approximately 604,000 Australian dollars. This is based on a block time of 1,270 minutes, assumes full airport and passenger charges, and is based on a fuel cost of $2.14 per US gallon. As you'd expect, operating the 10,577 nautical miles from Sydney via Darwin is inevitably very expensive. However, RDC shows that it is cheaper than operating via Singapore, as going through the Southeast Asian city would be approximately 634,000 Australian dollars, or about 5% higher. Of course, it's essential to realise that all of this concerns the operating cost in relation to breaking even. It doesn't look at profitability. While Singapore might be more expensive, it'll also, in normal times, produce much higher passenger volume while providing strong premium and overall demand. As Ian Smith, director at RDC Aviation, told us, The difference in operating costs is virtually all down to the extra costs with the additional flying time, especially fuel. It's quite interesting to note that the overall travel time, costs and break-even requirement will be much lower for flights transiting from Sydney through Darwin to London compared to the transit via Singapore. Between 2004 and 2019, Qantas offered 33.9 million seats for sale to or from Europe. The peak year was 2011, when it was just 67,394 seats from hitting the 3 million mark. While Qantas stopped serving non-UK European countries in 2013, France saw the airline's jets until 2004 and Germany until 2013. Both used 747-400s. Frankfurt was linked to Sydney via Singapore, and the loss of this route was the result of the Qantas-Emirates partnership, which was formed in 2013 and has extended to 2028. The rationale of the partnership was straightforward. Qantas would avoid loss-making or at least marginal non-core routes to Europe, while benefiting from Emirates' extensive European coverage. Emirates would benefit from greater access to Australia. Indeed, when Qantas began Dubai in April 2013, the pair had 98 weekly outbound flights, 17% more than the week before. Across all airlines, around 5.4 million round-trip passengers travelled between Australia and Europe in 2019, according to booking data. Over 14,500 people flew to or from Europe every day. More than 2.6 million passengers, or 48%, were to or from the UK, with Germany a very distant second with approximately 600,000. Next were Italy, France, Ireland, Spain, Netherlands, Greece, Switzerland and Denmark. Emirates, Qatar Airways, Singapore Airlines, Etihad Airways and Qantas carried around 8 in 10 Europe passengers. If all airlines are examined, the 10 most significant UK origins and destinations in 2019 are shown here. Even number 10, Manchester to Brisbane, had over 50,000 round-trip passengers. On average, about 140 people flew between Manchester and the Queensland capital each day. Even regional UK airports had good traffic to Australia. For example, Newcastle saw over 35,000 passengers, excluding those leaked to Scotland or Manchester to fly. The vast bulk of Newcastle passengers flew with Emirates, which has now returned to the North East Airport. Are you planning a trip from Europe to Australia or vice versa? Let us know in the comments. In addition to our daily YouTube videos, Simple Flying publishes over 150 articles and a podcast every week. If you're looking for the latest aviation news and insights, visit simpleflying.com. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe before you go.